Welcome, everybody, to the Somewhat Podcast Men. My name is Alex. Our show today is going to be about a conflict within this great nation of ours in terms of foreign policy: expansionism or isolationism.
Oh yeah! This is Risque. Hello, you beautiful, smart, intelligent viewers. I know you are that because you clicked on this link to watch this video. And today we are not going to disappoint you. We are going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is about America's role in the world and what direction it should be in. Saint?
Well, that was one hell of a intro there, Riz. I'm impressed. And
I like sense to...
Well, yeah, with that, like, I'm speechless. Literally. I have to turn it right back to Alex now. Because
I felt a little bit of the Iron Sheik in there, you know?
Yeah.
Just a little touch. I thought it was perfect.
Right. Yeah. I'm at a loss for word, man. I'll have to come. Give me time to think to make a comeback on this. All right.
I'm about to drop this mic and end the show. All right.
Well,
Alex.
Put this respected flag down. So this topic is really important because what direction the country has been in or is going to be in or started in affects our day-to-day lives here in the United States. So whether your ancestors came on Plymouth Rock, whether your ancestors were part of the Atlantic slave trade, whether your ancestors were natives here in this country, or whether your ancestors migrated here 20 years ago. The American foreign policy has a direct effect on your lives. Okay? So it's really important that we talk about this. Historically, some people would say that the U.S. expansionism started from the very beginning. So from Plymouth Rock, from St. Augustine, into the Appalachian Mountains, into the Louisiana Purchase when it was purchased from France, through Lewis and Clark, through the Midwest, through the Civil War, into the Indian Wars, and out and finally out by the Spanish-American War, the Mexican-American War, when the United States took a large portion of the Southwest and California. So a lot to unpack here, a lot to talk about here. Rizke?
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack. I'm gonna start on a more what's the word I'm looking for? Like a more of a bird's eye view of this phenomenon. Philosophically, when you look at American expansionism, a lot of it is you can trace it back to the doctrine of manifest destiny. Have you guys heard of this term? Mm-hmm. Manifest destiny?
Yep.
Do you have, Alex? Have you, Saint?
No, it's the first time I'm hearing it.
You know who coined the term manifest destiny?
Yeah, Polk.
John Quincy Adams.
I thought it was President Polk.
No, John Quincy Adams. So you can go back for... Yeah, John Quincy Adams was the first to coin the term manifest destiny. And what he meant by that was that it was in America's destiny to basically be a great nation, and expansion was seen as a pathway to security. So this is the philosophy behind, the doctrine of expanding. So initially, like Alex, you mentioned, after the Pilgrims came, the expansion started right away, right? From the colonies, the manifest destiny was to go westwards. And of course, the Native Americans, they faced the brunt of that, right?
Right.
I think that when you say that some people would say that the expansionism started early on, I would agree with that. So I think it's built into the DNA, the fabric of the DNA of this country, actually.
Right.
So I would say that's one point.
Most people will say that. Well, not most people. There are also people that will say that true expansionism started under the presidency of McKinley, when the United States was involved in the Spanish-American War and took active colonies in the Philippines and Puerto Rico, to name just two of them.
Yeah, initially, actually, the first was Cuba, and then Philippines, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Guam.
Right.
And there's a lot of other colonies. But let's ask a philosophical question. What's the reason that a country would want to expand or to interfere in other countries? Like, what do you guys would think?
Before I answer that question, I don't know if you guys ever watched the show The Newsroom.
The Newsroom. Was that HBO?
Yeah. Do you know who was in it?
The guy from Dumb and Dumber?
Yeah, forgot his name.
Jeff
Daniels. So, do you remember that real famous video from that? You know, America being the best country in the world, and he answers that question. The viewers, if you haven't, I'm going to link that video in the description. You have to watch the answer he gave. All right? Because that answer defines what we have paid the price. The price we've been paying.
Right.
That's the price we've paid, interfering too much into the outside world. And it's hurt the United States internally. All right?
Yeah, agreed. And I'd even say that, sorry to go on a tangent, Rizke, but I'd even say that this conflict of isolationism and expansionist desires has been a conflict in the country since the very beginning. There have always been groups of people that did not want to expand, that felt that involvement in foreign affairs would be the detriment of the country. And one of those people who thought that was General Washington. His famous phrase, and I'm going to butcher this phrase, but I'm going to paraphrase it, which basically is like, if we get entangled in the wars of Europe, that will be the downfall of the country. And there have been times where the U.S. had to get involved, rightly so, like World War II, in the conflicts of Europe. And there have been times when the United States has gotten involved in conflicts which only benefited the pockets of a few. And we're going to, hopefully we'll be able to unpack that today.
Well, yeah, let's get into the 20th century. If you look at the 20th century, you know, many people, many academics, scholars, would call it the American century, right? And there's a reason that they call it that. It's because after World War II, did you guys know that the United States had over 50% of the global wealth?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was. So after World War II, I mean, like, so, you know, you're like Britain, France, Germany, you know, prior to America's rise, were the dominant, you know, superpowers, right?
Yeah, but
at one time,
Germans made mincemeat out of them.
Mincemeat.
The Germans.
Yeah, they were swimming in the damn ocean, running across the border if the Yankees didn't save their asses.
Right, but now after World War II, and people, the policymakers in Washington knew this, by the way. Like, they knew that after World War II that America was going to be in this position of, like, unprecedented power, basically. And have you guys heard of the Grand Arena concept?
No,
Yes.
what is that? I haven't.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. This is going to get fun. The Grand Arena concept was basically, and you can Google this, by the way. This is, this is not like some, conspiracy theory. The Grand Arena, basically, after World War II, the policymakers assigned different functions to different regions. Okay? So, for example, the Middle East was designated for energy resources. Latin America was designated to be an area that the United States would control and would prefer police states.
Get the drugs out of, they needed to grow the drugs there, sell them here.
Yeah. Southeast Asia basically was going to be where the raw materials and resources were going to be cultivated from. And Africa, we didn't really care that much about Africa, to be honest. We're like, let Europe do whatever it wants, exploit it. So this was like basically this. This is the mindset of these policymakers.
But who are these policymakers? Do you have specific names? Because like after World War II and during World War II, we had a caliber of leadership in this country that has yet to be matched. FDR, Truman, Eisenhower,
Yeah, but who bankrolled everything? The Rothschilds. They bankrolled all the finances for the things they needed to defeat Germany.
Okay, so
that's your top echelon.
Oh,
money.
So I'm like specific like leadership within the country as an elected official leadership are caliber of leaders that have yet to be matched. Now, if there's like outside influences from banking, et cetera, that's I think is a different story for a different podcast. But like
but this ties in philosophically to the doctrine of manifest destiny.
Because the bankers are bankrolling their desire to. Okay, I got you.
Well, but wait, I'm going to tie it in to economics in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm saying is that like, okay, first of all, in international relations, there's no friends. There's only interests. And you can't knock somebody for having their own self-interest, all right? No one is doing that. We're not here to argue that. Now, what I will say is that the policymakers, they made a conscious decision that they wanted to remain the dominant superpower, so they were going to enact policies to make sure it stayed that way.
Right.
And where this leads to is basically that in third world countries or in the Middle East, that they would only support those type of dictators that towed the line, essentially, of the United States, okay? Mm-hmm. Or any other country, because the U.S., and I'm going to get into the dollar in a second, because this is also important. But basically, what they're saying is that in order for us to maintain our power is that we need to make sure that economically, we're able to exploit what we were able to exploit, and that no one can sort of challenge us. That's just sort of like a general sort of framework, I guess.
Well, I mean, you're skipping like a whole entire part of post World War II, where the main focus of the country was defeating the USSR and communism, right? Like, if you looked at policy and policymakers directly after World War II, it was what can we do to prevent the spread of communism? Which police force states can we put in certain areas of the world in order to prevent the spread of communism? And like one thing, I don't know if I said it on the show before or not, but a point of countries that are not republics, right? Or they're not democratically elected, whether they're fascist or communist or dictators, right? In order for a democracy to defeat those type of countries, I said it on the conspiracy podcast. In order for a democracy to defeat those kind of countries, you have to get on their level. You have to lower yourself to that level of dictatorship or the tyrannical strength of the communist nations in order to combat them. So like when you're talking about like creating economic foreign policy in order to benefit the United States, which in terms of expansionism, they're going to use expansionism to strengthen the economics of the U.S., you're skipping communism. What about communism? What about the battle with communism?
Well, I mean, let's talk about that. So I guess first of all,
look at present day. I mean, I guess.
Well, first of all, I would argue that yes, because obviously, America was a dominant superpower, right? We talked about it had over 50% of the global wealth. Russia started to rise, and obviously, when you have like one big bully, and then there's another sort of smaller bully who's coming to the playground.
No, hold on. Hold on.
It's kind of
hold on. You're messing up here. The USSR was not a smaller bully. The USSR had the largest land army in the entire world. They had nuclear weapons only a few years after we had nuclear weapons.
So they were a big bully too. They were a big bully.
The world was split
in
two. There was the communist influence and the U.S. influence.
Yeah, so that was just basically a fight for, it was an ideological war, right?
Yeah, and resource and economic system, you know.
Yeah, but I don't understand. Like, I mean, that's probably like a separate issue, though. We're talking about like I was talking something more about how the policymakers, you know, frame their objectives. I'm not sure what that had to do with the Cold War.
Because the framing of the objectives of the policymakers would be in the light of the Cold War. And I feel like you're missing that.
No. But this type of policy started before the Cold War.
Okay, go ahead.
Much before. That's what I'm saying. It started much before the Cold War.
Okay.
Anyway, Saint.
So, I'm gonna go where Riz started. He said to give the bird's eye view because you know the bigger picture is responsible for the smaller pieces moving from one place to the other. The bankroll their interest in a new developing world, the power shift, globalization, diversity, free trade, you know, full-edged capitalism. It wasn't going to happen on the Eastern Front. Nothing on the Eastern. It was going to be in the West. So, big billionaires, you know, forget the names. We'll just go. They all moved money to the United States. Hence, the wealth got
the U.S.
Yes, the shift for the wealth. It was the most imperialistic move to set up a new nation, diversify, you know, and start that new world order. That's the stake that was put right there in the ground for later, you know. So hence now we are. Go ahead. So.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Basically, I look at all the events playing out, you know, as they did, and we are now at another crossroads, at the brink of another war. I mean, it's moving. You know, the pieces are falling places. You know, it's happening right now. The most obvious, we have China and Russia on that side, and we have United States. Forget Europe. I actually don't even count them. They're gonna get mincemeat again in the middle. They're just poorly placed pieces of chess. You know, the rooks.
Yeah.
So,
but go ahead. Yeah, but let's to kind of further hone in on the topic that we started, like expansionism versus isolationism. When you listen to some of the reasons given as to why a country should engage in expansionist policies, a lot of it is economics, right?
Yeah.
You want to increase your access to other markets. You want like you want more trade. So a lot of it is economics. Now, sometimes you'll have like this sort of paternalistic attitude as well, where you know you have this mindset that look, we're a superior civilized people. These savages and brutes don't know anything, so we're doing them a favor if we go in and fix them up. So to speak.
The problem
there's also
is
some of that, but
very
there's also
little
some of that
because
at times. Yeah.
This time they're actually dealing with nuclear-powered countries, so they're.
No, I know.
It's kind of like that. Yeah, but we've gone through those stages of savages. We've all seen that part.
Yeah,
it's happened.
No, but
well, I mean, George W. Bush's war in Iraq was let's say the savages' war.
I'll tell you one thing: that man has reflexes. That shoe he dodged impressed the crap out of me. Ooh, that man,
dude,
that's some reflexes.
That guy who threw the shoe at him, like, didn't he face jail time or something?
Yeah, bro, that guy's bald in this big, son.
What?
Yeah, he got every bone broken in his body, man. At that point, I wish the shoe would have hit the face.
You know, might as well. You're gonna break it.
But I think he was a hero in jail or something.
Yeah, he was, dude.
Yeah, but he also got beaten up. So
I mean, whatever.
Anyway, sorry.
Well, one thing I will say is that there is a strain of
Yeah.
expansionism that believes in
Yeah.
soft power expansionism, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
like, I can't remember the Commodore Perry. When Commodore Perry opened up Japan, that was a mix of hot and soft power expansionism. Like, this country, you guys have to open up so we can trade with you, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna open up so we can trade with you. You don't have to change anything about you, but you're gonna trade with us, right? So like some people would say that that form of expansionism, economic expansionism, is acceptable, right? Where if the U.S. is faced towards the Pacific, all of their foreign policy goals should be facing towards the Pacific and engaging in trade across that big pond, the Pacific Ocean, between the Asian countries and the United States. There are policymakers from the 1800s up until today that say that is our main foreign policy goal and our main economic goal. And even Trump is a big proponent of this, right? Where our focus should not be on Europe. Whatever happens in Europe is going to happen in Europe, and we're only going to get caught up in the mess that's over there. What we need to be focused on is what's going on in Asia. And in Asia, we would use the Navy to ensure trade routes and use soft power, which is our culture, Hollywood, et cetera, and pop culture to like increase trade and business deals with Asia.
Before we go off sending Justin Bieber to Shanghai, I want to ask Alex a question here. Like, do you? I mean, just the way that the world has become like an interconnected global village. I mean, can you even become an isolationist in this day and age? By definition, I don't think you can.
No, you cannot. The days of isolationist dreams are over.
I think North Korea is the only country that can stay that way.
Yeah, agreed.
Man. Like, I think, there's no internet. There's no internet for the people.
There got to be a fine balance.
Yeah, that is the most extreme, and the funny thing is, it does exist in this time and age, North Korea. Mm-hmm. No other country.
But so I guess we all agree that I think it's impractical that the U.S. can have like just a purely isolationist policy. That's just impractical.
But you know what the problem is? The media in this country gives the mirage of isolationism. Like, it keeps the people too distracted within this realm to even, look what we're doing outside. Just keep your eyes in the wall, ears over here.
Since we started touching upon economics, I want to get a little bit deeper into that and how this ties into this topic. And I think you guys will find this very interesting. Do you guys know when did the U.S. dollar go off the gold standard?
It was
Wilson.
No,
President Wilson.
After Wilson.
Yeah, it was
Nixon.
Okay.
71, 72.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting is
they signed that bill over Christmas when everybody was out.
But what's interesting is that after that the U.S. dollar went off the gold standard, the U.S. dollar actually became the world's reserve currency very shortly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's two events that happened in making that. The Federal Reserve stopped being a federal bank. It became a private entity. You got to That is a very important part.
Yeah, that's what now, and the dollar becoming the world's reserve currency means that, like, let's say that the U.S. Spends militarily abroad, right? Those dollars, they recirculate back into the American economy.
Yep.
Guess what? Those countries are buying U.S. Treasury bonds.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't buy U.S. Treasury bonds, guess what? We might do some economic tariffs. We might do some other sort of financial shenanigans, and you're basically.
And that is exactly why Russia is fighting that rubles and dollars fight. But
And
we're
this
at a
is-
crossroads.
Yeah.
Literally, we are,
Yeah.
because the petrodollar is now it's in a very thin line. It's a pretty edgy
Yeah.
state right now.
Europe has been threatening to, like some countries in Europe have been threatening to use the ruble to pay for the gas, to pay for their oil
Yeah.
there.
Well,
I mean, like, let's get into the modern era a little bit more,
Yeah.
since we've been talking about historical.
Yeah.
So, isolationism is no longer an option,
Right.
So the conflict inside the country right now is between aggressive expansionism, like from the likes of Dick Cheney, and soft power expansionism, economic expansionism,
Right.
like Trump. And I hate to say Trump because he's associated with so many other crazy things or whatever, but he is the most modern politician that
Example.
would be associated with this, right? So
Okay.
this line of thinking.
Sure.
So you have the aggressive and neocolonialist expansionism, like Hillary Clinton and Dick Cheney, right? Who preferred the method of military, using the United States military to press other countries into what we want them to do to benefit us economically, right? To expand a supply chain that extends throughout the world and is protected by the U.S. military in order to benefit and encourage economic growth within the United States and throughout the world, right? What in that thought, in that aggressive standpoint, risque and saint,
Yeah.
what benefits does that have for the country?
you know,
Benefits.
Benefits
Same?
and
Okay.
negatives.
I just
Go ahead.
if you think Trump was still in president, do you think we would have gone to war with Russia?
No.
As
No, 'cause
as
he's
bad
not
as
focused on that.
exactly, and I can take the crazy, but he was not a warmonger.
Definitely not.
For some odd reason, the Democrats have like taken the acid trip, and they want to go all the way to the gate of hell.
It's not just the Democrats, man. It's the Republicans too. It's just
Well-
like the common.
Here's the funny part. What's his name? Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. Bow tie.
I there's nothing I like out of his mouth, but when he's the one who's talking sense about not going to war with Russia, the crazy guy, that's when you actually kind of stop and you're like, okay, what is really going on?
Yeah.
But going to Alex's point, Alex asked if there's any, like, what could be some of the potential benefits of having an aggressive sort of foreign policy. Is that what you were asking?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess benefit-wise, I mean, you show your dominance, number one, right? I mean, that's always, it's like a show of dominance is, I guess, could be a potential benefit. Obviously, whenever these policymakers make these type of decisions, they're always looking at economic costs, right? What's going to be the long-term economic,
The problem is
potential from
the
it?
deal makers on our side.
Yeah.
They're
But
the way they want the economy to work for them is to literally cripple the other guy. And at this point,
or to dominate.
dominate in
Yeah.
the sense of completely, like declawing them, right? And at this point, Russia and China have shown, they're not going to bow down.
Yeah, but we're like like any country that we have aggressive expansionism towards, it would be like the Middle East. So let's look at George W. Bush's war, right? I would say that he was tricked into that war by his cabinet and by Dick Cheney, right? I would
Really?
say that. Yeah, I would
the
say that-
man. Okay. You got to remember that's the face. Okay, the
Yeah.
president. The real power, he does not have it.
Well, the thing is that I agree with you, but I think that I agree with you to an extent, right? The office of the President of the United States can either be weak or strong, depending on the president and depending on his cabinet and depending on who he has with him, right? A president like Richard Nixon, it was an extremely strong
Oh yeah,
executive
Nixon
branch,
actually knew what he was doing.
right?
That's yeah.
A president like Eisenhower, extremely
Yep.
strong executive branch, right? A president like Carter, not that strong of an executive branch.
He's
And
still
let's be
alive, right?
honest.
Did he pass away, or is he still alive?
No, he's still
He's
alive.
still alive.
Wow, man,
Great
that
man.
yeah,
Great
no,
man.
he's a
He
great
was-
man. He's a
yeah,
great man.
A president like, and let's be honest, Obama, not that strong of an executive branch, right? Even Trump was not a strong executive branch.
But
right? So-
you know, Obama just had that world celebrity
he had that
status.
polish
Yeah.
about him.
Yep.
Yeah.
But going to the Alex, going to the Bush's the war in Iraq. I guess we're talking about. There is this historian. His last name is Gaddis, and he actually has done a lot of research on George Bush and his doctrine, the Bush doctrine. And if you look at his research, like he traces a lot of similarities to. Remember we talked about Manifest Destiny, John Quincy Adams. To that concept, and he finds a lot of similarity to the Bush doctrine and the John Quincy Adams concept of America as a nation of manifest destiny. And if you listen to George Bush's when he spoke about before the Iraq War, like he sounded like he was on an evangelical mission, man, like a crusade almost. To be honest, from what I recall.
So
I don't know.
I'm gonna give you my perspective. I mean, this is my opinion, and goes down pretty close to the conspiracy lines. But so I look at after Nixon, I actually would kind of draw the line at Nixon, because all those presidents, yes, they were chosen, but they were on status quo. They knew what the nation needed. They knew what the agenda was, where it needs to go. I mean, they were in on what needed to be done. They were with the program. Kennedy took a bullet. You know, he couldn't, get the script right, so they had to force replace him. But just coming down, Obama, when I look at his presidency, he was the public relations turnover after the Bush era, because at that point, United States was like being spat on everywhere in the world.
Yeah, we were.
So they're like, and this is purely my opinion, let's give them a black president. The world needs a black president. People will forget about Iraq. And lo and behold, it did work. Hell, the Africans in Africa were cheering for him. you know?
I mean,
So,
like
but
Saint,
I'm just saying, yeah.
right. I understand your viewpoint, and I think it's a very common viewpoint where like you have a man behind the curtain who's pulling the strings,
I wouldn't say a man, but there's
or a company or a group of people
It's-
behind the curtain pulling the strings, right? But that being said, what government and what world policy really is a bunch of different small interest groups that are all vying for different resources. Everybody
That's
wants
it.
a piece of the pot. Everybody wants a piece
Yeah.
of the pie, right? So you have this small group that's only focused on their interest and what they want. You have this small group that's only focused on their interest and what they want, and everybody's making a cluster fudge out of it, right?
Oh,
so,
it is.
So that's really that, in my opinion, that's what I think is happening.
No,
There's a
I
bunch
agree
of
with you
different-
there. I agree
yeah,
with you
bunch of
completely
different
there.
Citizens
There
that
are
love
big,
that-
pieces that keep moving, the tides.
Yeah, agreed. And like there are like everybody. If you ask each individual, like each person that might be part of a specific interest group, like what do you think about the? Oh, I love America. I love the country. I'm invested in it. I want it to be the greatest country in the world. And like, yeah, on an individual basis, they might believe that, but in their interest group, they're so focused on what their company wants or what's going to make them money is they lose sight of the bigger picture. And I think that is what happened in Iraq and in George Bush's invasion of Iraq.
I'm gonna kind of put this
Yeah, but-
in a marine a seaman's turn. You know, like we've got interest groups. Think of it, we all being on the same ship, drilling holes on separate places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by the time we drilled enough of it, we're all going to sink together.
Right.
Yeah, and well, and the other thing that I will note is that when you think about U.S. foreign policy, and when you think about how the media in the U.S. covers foreign policy, a couple of things are striking. One is that the U.S. acts like as if they own the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's there's
a certain narcissism, to it. Number two, by definition, and this is sort of like it's sort of a logical fallacy, but by definition, if whatever the U.S. is doing, by definition, it is good because the U.S. is doing it.
Right.
Do you see the logical fallacy in that?
Well, that type of logic extends through the populace now.
Right.
If the Democratic Party is saying it is good, it must be good because it is moral.
But wait. Let me finish my point though.
Mm-hmm.
The larger point is that we're not talking about internal Democrat Republican. That's we're talking about U.S. foreign policy, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you have this framework that, like, you basically own the world, and that by definition, whatever you do is good, then anyone who resists you becomes a what?
Bad.
Aggressor, renegade. Look at the terms they use for
terrorist.
People like Saddam or Gaddafi, and these people they were probably like on the CIA payroll at some point or other. A lot of these people were, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying though, this is a larger framework, and this is important to know because remember we did the episode on propaganda, man.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very important that you sift through the propaganda.
Yeah, like
anyway,
simple. The Mujahideen, the Afghans in Reagan's time, became the terrorists afterwards. So
right, absolutely.
Or you can say that Reagan, in their blindness to get rid of communism.
No, but that is the key thing we were talking about.
They supported a group of people that they should have not.
Like we're just so blindly we use this piece and disregard it. Then we're actually fighting that piece afterwards.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like it's chaos.
Yeah, and this is why the point that we all agree upon, that it's just a bunch of knuckleheads playing bumper cars in terms of foreign policy and domestic policy. Like, it's just people, like, it's just different groups of people that really don't know what the other hand is doing.
We got too many jackasses lose.
That's a perfect explanation, example of how that system is working.
Yeah.
Where in Afghanistan, it went from heroes to hellspawn in a matter of 30 years, less than 30 years.
Yeah, and also like when the U.S. invades. Remember when invaded Panama? Mm-hmm. So when the U.S. invades Panama, it's not that the U.S. is an aggressor. It's that the U.S. is like, oh, well, Noriega, he's like, he's this really bad guy, or he's oppressing his people. So there's always a pretext, right? Because by definition, if we're doing it, it must be right. Right. Now, if any other country does it, oh my God, look what they did. They're invading some other country. Like, how bad are they?
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying though? There's
when the banana companies convinced Eisenhower to invade El Salvador.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. So I mean, there's a lot of that for sure.
So back to my question about, is there anything good about aggressive expansionism? I would say no, there's not. All you have to do is look at Iraq, right? The invasion of Iraq was sold to the American people as if Saddam Hussein had chemical weapons or was building nuclear weapons, right? It was also sold to the American populace that he was involved in the planning of 9/11, which is bullshit, right?
I don't understand is China hasn't had any wars outside like the United States, right? In the past 20 years. Just take 20 years. We won't go too back. they put all that money. I'm not in favor of the communism they
Right.
have. Trust me. I've
Yeah, they put all
but-
that money inside their country.
and how they made marks with other countries, bought their seaport and stuff through building infrastructure.
Right.
All right.
Well, they do something else. What they do is they'll go to a country and say, "Hey, we're going to give you a loan to build this highway and higher speed rail system in your country," and the country will say, "Oh yeah, we'll take the loan, build it." Right.
Yeah, and
it'll be
the
all
cool
Chinese,
thing is,
it'll be all Chinese workers. Hold on, all
Yep,
Chinese workers,
yep.
all Chinese contractors that will build it for them, and then inevitably, when they cannot pay the loan back, they will go and say, "Okay, you can't pay the loan back, but we want to have a port here."
but see, the cool part about that
you're
is
going to give us this land, and it'll be 100-year port, 100-year
right.
contract on this port.
But it's a debtor and a loaner, right? There's a choice. They can say no, right?
Right.
But
Softer
but
expansionism.
where do we give anybody a choice before we drop a bomb on their head?
So this is the problem, right? We lost that choice when we gave up industrialization and manufacturing.
Yeah. We went for the military complex.
Once the Clinton administration decided that we're done with industry and manufacturing, aside from large manufacturing inside the United States, our only export is war.
We
That's it.
became the biggest consumers.
But wait, Alex. This shift from industrialization started way before Clinton.
Yeah,
He put the
No,
final.
no, no.
He put the
No,
final.
wait.
He put the final
This
stake in
started-
the coffin.
Okay, fine,
He put
but
the
this
final
started.
stake.
Yeah, but this started
agreed.
way
So
before.
Who's the one that introduced NAFTA? Who's the one that put that final stake in the coffin?
No,
but
Clinton did,
I'm gonna
yeah,
say, yeah.
in
but
the
this
modern
is-
day, yeah.
This is bigger than Clinton or any one president. This also like Saint alluded to. There's also like something called a military-industrial complex, and I'm not saying that this. I mean, so no matter which president's party is in power, there's also this other force which
Right.
dictates foreign policy. So you can't just
Yes.
choose. So that's one point.
I agree.
So what Saint and what Alex, what you were saying is that
Kennedy
like,
also
US
said what I
has-
said.
and the U.S. has lost its industrialization, right, and has shifted into like this sort of military adventurism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now this goes to what this ties into the U.S. being the world's reserve currency. As long as the dollar is the world's reserve currency, this model works. Okay, but here's the big but. I like big butts, and I cannot lie. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
You're not kidding, bro. No, come on. Go ahead.
The big China and Russia and Iran and some other countries, they are making an active effort to not purchase U.S. dollars. So basically, they're trying to decouple themselves from the dollar. If in the future the U.S. dollar does not become the world's reserve currency, oh boy, that's time to get Big O back on the show, because we're all gonna be purchasing guns, my friend, because it's gonna be chaos. Anyway,
And that is a fact, Jack.
Yeah, the thing is that so like let's just kind of delve a little bit into the war in Iraq, right?
yeah,
The idea behind the war in Iraq, the actual foreign policy behind the war in Iraq, was to boost the economy via military purchases, right? So they start a war, put fuel on the fire of the economy to purchase weapons, et cetera, go into Iraq, and
Find those WMDs.
Bush's W's thought process was that we would be there for a decade or so and kind of train the people on how to run their country, and we would have a huge ally in the Middle East, right? Cheney's viewpoint and what he wanted to do was, we're not leaving Iraq. We're there indefinitely. The military will stay in Iraq, and the people in Iraq will become, kind of like how the Germans were right after World War II, that they would just fall under U.S. policy. The government there would follow, the U.S.'s system, and we would teach them about anti-corruption, et cetera, et cetera. But they didn't take into account Bush's idea. They didn't take into account the thousands of years of like Sunni Shia beef and Iran's influence and et cetera, et cetera. But Cheney's did. Cheney wanted to stay. Cheney wanted to treat it like a colony,
Yeah.
And I think that form of foreign policy thinking was broken at that point. The people in the United States were tricked into supporting that war, and when they actually saw what was happening, they did not believe anything that was coming out the government's mouth after that. If you notice, after that war is when all this like don't trust the government stuff started coming out. Like it was a small like a group of people initially, but after that war in Iraq, about 10 years after that war in Iraq, when troops started coming home and people started to realize
the troops are telling the truth.
There's no weapons of mass destruction. These people are just like the media makes it seem like there's animals in the street
Tony Blair apologized.
Tony
Blair,
what I'm saying is, like, they kill so many people, and I apologize.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We made a mistake. Really?
Yeah, but
what mistake did we make?
But
I'm talking about Tony Blair, like how he came. Well, we were wrong. We made a mistake, and we killed so many million people. So, okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But Alex, yeah, but there's always like a disconnect between the people and the people in government. Hold
on.
I'm going to tell you. Let me finish my point.
Go ahead.
When you talk to we've all traveled abroad, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you talk to people outside this country, what do they tell you? They love the American people.
Yeah.
Because but they hate the U.S. government.
Yeah.
That's the disconnect.
Yeah. I mean, we dislike our own government.
Well,
we dislike our own
actually
government.
At this point, I would agree. There is a part, at least from Pakistan and knowing a lot of others. He's dead on right. Nobody trusts the government. Nobody likes the government.
Let me tell you something. The American citizen is loved and welcomed in any country in the entire world. The people aren't stupid. They're nuanced. The people in the world are nuanced. They get it. They get that the American citizen, that his government has been hijacked, and that the citizen himself is to be loved and respected. The people aren't get it. So if you guys are thinking about traveling, don't hesitate. Travel.
Absolutely.
We are loved and respected everywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and let's keep that 100. That's 100%. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like.
Wait. Although, like, you can make an argument that Justin Bieber is not loved in a lot of places.
Justin Bieber is super loved everywhere, bro. We just don't love him here. Wait, he's Canadian.
Wait. Are you a believer?
He's Canadian.
Belieber.
Oh, is he?
Doesn't even count.
Yeah, he is Canadian.
Justin Bieber.
My bad. Sorry. All right.
The thing is that after the first Gulf War with H.W. Bush, people like respected the government. They like the government would say something and they would say, okay, like that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense, right? After the war in Iraq, George W. Bush's war, I forgot what they called it. Desert Storm, what was it?
Yeah. But wait a second. Did you agree with the first Iraq War, by the way?
All right, so let's unpack it. Let's unpack it, right?
Go ahead.
So Saddam Hussein invaded Iran after the revolution, thinking that the United States would support him with weapons and military support. Okay. He wanted to conquer Iran and create a large, like, super state, right? The Western governments were kind of like, oh, well, let's see what he does, right? But they didn't really support him, okay? He failed in that endeavor. So now he's looking for money, right? Where do I get money from? Where do I get, how do I bolster my economy? Because his economy was in ruins, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he looked at his neighbor to the south, this little rich state of Kuwait. And was like, I'm just going to take their oil, right? and use their oil to rebuild my country, okay? And then so his policy advisor says, well, what about the United States? And he says, well, what about the United States? We're going to give them cheap oil anyways. They don't give a shit who they're taking it from, right? That was his mistake. They gave a shit who he was taking
He
it from.
actually did not know how much player room he had. Get it? He actually overthought his alliance with the United States, basically.
Yes. Yeah. He thought that it didn't matter who the
Yeah.
U.S. was getting oil from, that they would get it from anybody. It didn't matter, right? That they weren't concerned about who was taking oil from who. At the end of the day, they just wanted the
Well,
oil.
I actually have no, love lost for that. I mean, the man, what he did to Iran, and then, whatever to him. But the price was paid by the people.
The Iraqi people, yeah.
That's the problem.
So, like, I wouldn't say I agreed with H.W. Bush's war in Iraq. I'm neutral to it, I guess. But Saint is correct. The people who suffered through aggressive U.S. expansionism is the Iraqi citizen. And there's no other country in this world that has suffered as much as Iraq over the past 40 years, right? Yeah. Through their war with Iran, through their war with Kuwait, through their war with the United States, the first one, through the invasion of Iraq, through the conflict and turmoil that's happened post-Saddam, right? So, like, Iraq is a failed state. That country is eventually going to be broken up. Turkey's going to take a piece of it.
There was a time when Baghdad used to be the center of education for the world.
Yeah.
Like, history is his story. I would say it's pretty interesting, and it's a repetition. Anything that's gone for power, for just the purpose of power, has never ever succeeded. There's a rise and fall,
right?
And it's that the sandy dunes of rise and falls keep going, and we're just gonna keep going their roller coaster rides.
Yeah. We have, there's a lot to talk about here. I think we're doing this topic in injustice, but like
injustice, yeah.
But like we will continue this topic. We're gonna have a show about the economic influences of colonialism.
I think we have that imperialism and economics coming up soon.
Yep, that's coming up soon, and then we
have a guest for that. We have a guest for that.
Right. We're going to have this conversation again, and hopefully we'll have Big O on the show. Maybe that might help with our viewership.
Oh, yeah.
But like, so like, let's wrap it up. Let's kind of, I don't want to say what's our crystal ball. Let's talk about, and we didn't talk about like soft expansionism, but
not enough time.
Not enough time. Let's just kind of end the show with like a little what we think. Maybe not what's going to happen in the future, but like, go ahead.
I think that all countries have self-interest. I mean, that's just part of international relations. It's to be expected. So countries will act based on what their interests are. And to expect anything else, I think, is to be foolish. I think what you have to ask yourself, though, is if you look at it in the long run, has the country's foreign policies been a net positive or a net negative for the population? I think that's the question that the viewers have to answer for themselves. I would say that currently for the United States, it's had a good run in terms of the American century and whatnot, but I think we're seeing a period of decline setting in. And you're seeing that manifest internally as well in terms of, social disorder and, other signs. So I would say that the policymakers, they should really pay attention to that. But I know they're not going to listen to us or. But hey, if anyone is happening to be listening, hey, we're for hire, right? So you can put us on your payroll. But anyways, those are my thoughts.
Yeah,
I'll go next. So like, I'm gonna be a little long-winded here, right? So the example of aggressive expansionism is shown in the invasion of Iraq. And the invasion of Iraq and what happened afterward and the public's reaction to it caused the election of Donald Trump. right? If you listen to what Donald Trump was saying in his debates, in his Republican primary debates, it was, why did we invade Iraq? It was the biggest policy blunder that the United States have done in the last 100 years, and we had no business being there. We're spending money and lives and the bloods of American citizens in Iraq, and we gained nothing from it. There's nothing to benefit from invading Iraq. So why did we go? Why did we go? Right? We went because the Dick Cheney, and who was the CEO of a military-industrial complex company, decided that we were going to go, and they had a no-bid contract to go and rebuild Iraq and supply weapons. I mean, it's a joke. They went in there to benefit a company, right? And like, for aggressive foreign policy expansion never works. It does not work, right? Our goal and our focus as a nation to make us the strongest and best nation in the world is soft power expansionism, right? We need to make deals. Okay, look at it this way. What are Americans good at? We're good
Marketing.
at hustle. We're good at hustling, right? We're the hustlers.
I don't
We're good
know.
At, we're good at marketing, and we're good. No, we're good at hustling. We're good at making money out of nothing. The
Yeah.
American entrepreneur is good at making money out of nothing, right?
Yeah.
So like, that's what we should be, and our foreign policy should be that, right? We should be focused on making business deals, expanding the platform for entrepreneurship throughout the entire world, and using the U.S. military to support and defend that right? Not to go over and take over countries that will not benefit us, not to go over and take over countries because they have raw resources for us, right? Trade deals, trade deals, defense deals, defense deals, defense deals. That is the way for the U.S.
We're actually making the mistake the USSR made by putting all their economy into developing weapons. And here we're feeding one big hungry military complex and pretty much cutting the arteries off the country while doing that.
Yeah. Think about what not having industry in the United States is causing.
Right.
And you know who warned us about this and everybody was making fun of him? Ross Perot. No joke.
Yeah.
He warned us. He said, we are at a race to the bottom. We're going to get rid of our industrial capacity in the country, and then we will be at the whims and desires of the manufacturing core in the world.
You know, made in USA was like a gold standard, a product. I'm telling you, even in England, when we used to get anything that said made in USA, people didn't think twice buying that product.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Even to this day, whatever industry we got left, which has made in USA, it's top stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our quality standards are beyond.
I'll give you an example of that, right? I used to work for a oil field supply company, right? And we would sell like valves and pipe fittings and shit like that to foreign countries. If I offered them a butterfly valve that was $7, made in Italy, and I offered them a butterfly valve that was $16 and was made in Texas, they wanted the one from Texas. They didn't give a shit if the quality was the same or different or Italian quality was better. They specifically wanted the ones that were built in the United States.
It's seriously, it's a shame. It's really a shame. I mean, the people of the country who say we're the patriots, they need to go to tell their politicians to put that industry back. No more bullshit.
And you'd hope that COVID taught them this lesson. Rizke, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say before we end, make sure you guys, I should do this at the beginning because, people's attention spans are so, so short. But anyways, if by chance you're still, if by chance you watch this video till the end, number one, I love you, man. That's awesome. That's amazing.
I think they're not going to watch it again now.
But make sure that you please share the videos if you deem it worthy. Comment, like us on Facebook. Spread the love, not the hate. All
All right, everybody. This podcast was brought to you by Khalas Energy Drink. One drink on Khalas. Also, stay fresh, Loda. Stay fresh, Loda. Stay fresh. And the Big Brown Deck barbecue out of Brantford, Florida. Come on down. Eating's good. Thank you, everybody.
Make America great again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. See you.
All right.